Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are happy today to have Professor Salama from KAUST to give us a very interesting seminar regarding integrated sensors. A very brief information about Professor Salama. He received his PhD degree with honors from the Department of Electronics and Communication, Cairo University in 1997. The MS and PhD degrees from the Department of Electrical Engineering, Stanford University in 2000 and 2005. He was an assistant professor at RBI in New York between 2005 and 2009. He joined King Abdullah University of Science and Technology in January 2009, where he is currently a professor and was the founding program chair until August 2011. His work is in CMOS sensors for molecular detection, and he has been funded by the National Institute of Health and Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. He is awarded by the Stanford Berkeley Innovative Challenge Award in Biological Sciences and was acquired by this project, or this innovation was acquired by a company. Illumina is the name?
Yes, it's Illumina.
Illumina Incorporated. He's the author of more than 200 papers and 18 granted patents on low power mixed signal circuits for intelligent, fully integrated sensors and nonlinear electronics, memoristor and devices in particular. Okay. Please welcome Professor Khalid.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Abeid, for the nice introduction, and I'm very happy to be here. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So before I start my talk, I figured out I give you more information about a very exciting initiative that started at KAUST. It's called the Sensors Initiative. This initiative started 2.5 years ago. It's going to the first phase is going to end in December, and it's going to be extended for 3 more years. So we call this a research center without walls. The initiative started because they realized in the Office of Research that about 10% of KAUST work is on sensors. And this is before the initiative. So they figured out if there are so many people working on sensors, and it seems like a very interdisciplinary area. This is like you just go Google the papers on sensors and patents in Scopus, and you will find that sensors come in all different fields. So the decision was made, let's try to invest more into this initiative by collecting faculty from the whole divisions. So let's talk about sensors, why sensors are interesting. So if you take the evolution of sensors, and this is the first accelerometer. So this is just a device that gives you acceleration, and it gives you a current that's proportional to the acceleration. And this is just in the 1940s. So my dad probably just seen this. And then you fast forward recently, and you could see that in 3 millimeter by 3 millimeter, we will have a 3-axis accelerometer. So it's not only acceleration one direction, it's 3 directions. But this is not the best part. The best part that the accelerometer now has a readout circuitry, has power management, has digital signal processing, has memory, has an interface for communication. So it's really a fully integrated system, not just a transducer. And that's an interesting thing because you can actually now do so many exciting work. Now, one device that people now are using, actually, because it has been approved by FDA, is an implantable glucose monitoring system. So typically, you know the device where you have the droplet of blood to measure the glucose level for diabetic patients. This is actually slightly better because you actually put 2 electrodes in your skin, so there is not too much blood. It's like it actually gets blood, and then it keeps monitoring the glucose levels, and then you remove it every month. So this is continuously all the time. You don't have to keep getting blood out of your thing. Now, again, it has a sensor for the glucose, but it has also all sorts of circuitry: analog to digital converter, digital signal processing, microprocessor, battery, wireless communication. So it's a full system. Applications of sensors are everywhere. You can find them in oil and gas, security, environmental monitoring, healthcare, consumers. However, these are the things that we try to focus on at KAUST, which is the energy, sensitivity, and processing. Many of these sensors will be thrown in different places. How are you going to power them? Are you going to connect them to the power wall, or they're going to be running in batteries? If you're running in batteries, who's going to change the battery after the battery runs out? or are you going to do energy harvesting from the environment, solar cells, or are you going to do vibrational? So these are questions that we care about, how to increase the capacity of the batteries so that you can actually last for a longer period of time. Sensitivity, how can we actually get a very good sensor? Many of the times people are looking into cheap sensors. Once you start looking into something inexpensive, the quality of the sensor is not as good, so the sensitivity becomes an issue. So we work a lot on improving the sensitivity and also what we call selectivity. It's not important that you are extremely good in sensitivity, but you are not selective. You are actually, you get a signal from anything that's around you. So you have to be both selective and sensitive. And then, which is becoming more and more interesting, and this is where everyone is heading, is the processing. There are so many sensors, inexpensive, extremely good, you can have them everywhere, and they are collecting all sorts of data, all sorts of information. And the problem is, no one is doing much with this information. It's too much. It's too much information. So how can we actually process the data to get useful information of the sensor? Should we actually do data reduction on the spot? Don't store all the information. Just sense, make a decision, delete, and then, or you actually need to store everything. So there are lots of strategies, lots of things that people look into this. And of course, the big buzzwords that everyone knows, Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, Internet of Anything. So these are many of the things that people are talking about right now. A common scenario that people talk about is wireless sensor network. Basically, you will have your city, smart city, where you're going to put sensors everywhere. These sensors are going to be capable of collecting information, sensing some information, and conveying this information either between each other or to a central hub, which makes the decision and then sends back information to these sensors. You can think many scenarios. Traffic monitoring. There are sensors monitoring traffic, both traffic and parking spots, so that you could actually have this information sent to you on your cell phone or sent to you on the radio while you are driving. Information about the levels of harmful gases in the air, and this is extremely useful because you can actually institute bans on cars from entering certain places, and they keep doing that in Beijing and Singapore right now. So there are lots of interesting things, but the main objective is that hopefully this is going to help improve our quality of life. And that's the idea here, is that we're not putting sensors for the sake of putting sensors. We're putting sensors so that it do something that is going to be useful and helpful for us. Why Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia has so many scenarios that this sensor network concept is extremely useful for. Hajj, 3 to 4 million people working together, locations, you need to monitor their movement, you need to monitor their traffic, you need to make sure that emergency agencies are around to monitor if anything happens. You have long borders. We are in the Middle East. It's not the best place to be in right now, but it's extremely important to actually guard the whole border. So you need a network to make sure like that. Traffic in Riyadh, I don't go to Riyadh at all, ever. Only have been here in Saudi Arabia for 10 years, only been twice. And one of the main reasons is that this underground that they are building, it makes traffic a nightmare to go in Riyadh. Red Sea, one of the least explored places in the world, and a wealth of information, science-wise, and a wealth of actually treasures that you can find under there, and lots of people. So actually how to monitor it to make sure it's actually safe, because one of the bad things about the Red Sea is entrances protects it because it's a very small entrances, but at the same time, if something happens, it's actually going to stay inside. It's not going to be diluted by oceans and stuff like that. So we need to keep checking it. Jeddah flooding, it's one of the nightmares that keeps happening to Jeddah, flash floods. It's not only in Jeddah. I mean, I was in Texas when a flash flood happened. Many people died, and it was a nightmare. So flash floods are a disaster because you cannot predict where is the water is going to be going. So you need sensors to give you real-time information about speed of the water, direction of the water, and all this information. So there are many scenarios that this could actually find use for. And the idea here with the initiative is that we are going to group faculty from all programs at KAUST and all divisions. Divisions is the equivalent to a school or a college, and we actually have teams that have to have representatives from each one, and they would work to solve one problem and come up with new technologies that actually could be useful. So this is the sensors initiative. It starts always with an application. There is a problem we're trying to solve. Then we start looking, okay, this problem will require a sensor. What type of sensor, what type of signal we're trying to detect, what type of transducer we're trying to build. Then we look into how many sensors. Do I need one sensor or do I need many sensors? Then the sensors have to talk to each other. How many of them I should put and how many of them should talk to each other, how many of them should talk to a central unit. Then I have to process the information that is coming from all these sensors, and then I have to make a decision so that I can actually fulfill my application. If some of you are working on this, they will recognize that this is also commonly referred to now as cyber-physical systems or Internet of Things. So this is the whole concept. And you could see that all three divisions are represented. Each one comes from a different angle, or different centers also are represented in this initiative. So there are 5 projects. I'm going to talk to you about these projects. What are the challenges? What are we trying to do in each of these type of projects in the Sensors Initiative at KAUST. So the first one is wireless sensor network to monitor large areas. Basically, we're trying to monitor the quality of air and environment inside a big city. So we developed this cube, and this cube is actually interesting because we house inside the cube all the sensors that we are interested in and use the cube outside walls in order to print antennas. And these antennas has 2 functions. One is to communicate the data that we are collecting by the sensors to fixed nodes. So these blue dots are fixed nodes, and the sensors are everywhere collecting information and sending to these nodes. But at the same time, there is a battery inside, and it's actually 35% of the area is consumed by the battery, so that this node could stay for a long period of time. But at the same time, we actually use some of the antennas here to harvest RF signal that's in the environment, the Wi-Fi and the 3G, so that we can actually continuously recharge our battery. Now, what type of sensing mechanism that we have right now? We are measuring humidity, measuring CO2, measuring temperature, and these are all sensors that we actually have there inside the cube, and we keep continuously adding more sensors in it. So right now we're doing H2s, and Aramco is interested in having those to be done in their installations for H2s. The next project is monitoring of the Red Sea, and that's actually twofold project. The first project is actually we are trying to monitor the environment of the Red Sea under the water and to figure out few things: temperature, salinity of the water, the speed of the currents, the temperature, salinity, speed of the currents. These are the most important ones. Now that's one thing, and we need to have a map over the Red Sea. But another big project integrated in this is how marine animals interact with the environment. Meaning, where does the fish go? How does the fish eat? Does the changes in the environment affect the fish? So here we have 2 types of sensors. We have sensors that we put on fish, and we have sensors that we put actually inside the Red Sea. And this is amazing project because you will see it soon on Discovery Channel. So this is the current state of the art of the sensors that they could have with animals. These sensors, some of it actually measures some data of the animal itself, but at the same time, since the marine creatures swim under the water, you actually can get information about the water in different places. Problem is extremely bulky, extremely inhumane, if you ask, and at the same time, the size is so large that some of these are actually change the behavior of the animal. So that will be counterproductive to what you are trying to do. So, but we used to have this one, but a smaller version of this one here. Like we have right now, I think 300 whale sharks tagged inside the Red Sea. And they are continuously giving us information about their direction, their speed, their motion. Everything gets transmitted with satellite to us. It's a very nice project. It hasn't been done before. And the good thing about the Red Sea is that the population is small. So you can actually, and if you have enough coverage, 300 whale shark, we covered pretty much the whole population. Now, this was not useful. So right now, we have these flexible, very, very thin membranes that are stretchable. And we can actually wrap them inside, over the body. Here is actually on top of a crab. And we can actually measure certain features. Here we actually already demonstrated the depth, how far is a crab go down, the salinity of the water, and the temperature. And there are 9 other features that we are actually looking into developing. So that was the first sensor ever. I mean, we're talking about something in the order of half a kilogram to a kilogram to something in the order of grams. This is amazing, I mean, development. Another one that has been tested also in Valencia with this Discovery Channel is that they actually tagged certain turtles and crabs where they can actually monitor the sleeping cycles, the motion, and all that stuff. And this already is out there working these type of prototypes. So these are the type of things that we are interested in working on right now. Of course, you have to have something that can harvest energy to be powered. And in this situation, we use 2 things. We use polymer batteries that are very thin and very efficient, but at the same time we use the motion of the animal in order, it's a vibration, to actually convert it into energy that we store so that we power the sensors that we have. Another project is gas sensing of the environment. Extremely important when you have big installations for power plants and digging for oil. So, and this is the standard. I have seen it at Aramco, I've seen it at Kaust. They have this device, extremely good, extremely sensitive. However, it's expensive, and at the same time, you need to be connected to the power line because it actually consumes a lot of power. So our idea here is that to develop smaller sensors that we are actually extremely sensitive, and we build actually the full prototype that's actually portable, and this is what we have right now at Kaust, where we have a fully integrated smart sensor that can actually detect a variety of gases. Depending on the type of chemicals we use, we can actually do different types of gases. So far we worked on these. So these are H2s, SO2, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, ammonia, and these these are the smallest detection level ever reported out there. And it's not important that you have high sensitivity, which means that you have a high signal, but you really need to have very good selectivity, meaning that you do not react, the sensor do not react to other type of gases that are present in the environment. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able what gas is there and what gas is not there. Another interesting project that's becoming more and more popular with smartwatch people that use them to measure their pulse, to measure their rate and all that stuff. We are looking into more into your sweat, more into your tears, and to try to figure out some chemicals in your sweat and in your tears that could be indicative of a certain type of disease, and this could give us an early indication of these type of diseases. And we build those very nice small sensors that actually is capable of sensing and transmitting information to outside. So it gives you a signal if you detected this type of thing. When we looked into multiple types of dopamine, ascorbic acid, uric acid, all of these, you need to figure out how to power them. And we have this nice silicon which has two materials in it. It works like friction. If it moves with your hand, it actually generates enough energy that you can use to power the sensor. So the whole thing could be self-contained. More futuristic type thing is the contact lens sensors. Basically, it looks into the tears and actually can detect certain biomarkers inside your tears, and this is more sciencey type thing. For now, we're actually making it, we have our sensors that are transparent. However, we make it like this. I mean, like this looks like this black option, just to be able to actually see it and test it and all that stuff. But it's actually, we can build them transparent as well. However, the idea here is you print them in the periphery of the contact lens, and this actually allows you to continuously measure some information. And then you can either send the information outside. What we are having in mind, at the end of the day, people take off your contact lens, you put it in a solution where you can actually do the detection. Another device that we actually just demonstrated, where you get a droplet of your sweat, seriously, one drop, and you put it into these holes here, and it goes in, and you can actually make detection of dopamine, absorbing any of these, and it automatically connects to your cell phone. So this is like a lab on a chip. For this, we are using 5 different types of biomarkers, but depends on doctors. They can tell us, okay, we want to check for this or that. We have these type of devices. Another interesting device that all of us are walking around with a dozen or more sensors. Your cell phone has so many sensors in it that you wouldn't imagine the amount of information that I could know just getting access to your cell phone. So privacy issues, if you have a cell phone, it's not only the text and the images and the email. There is lots of information in that cell phone about you. The way you walk is already stored there. The temperature, the location, all this information, and this is becoming a problem. But it's also a good feature, because I can now monitor traffic using these cell phones. Every single one of us, whether in going to Hajj, they are carrying their cell phones, unfortunately, with them right now, which is good news, because then if I have access to all these cell phones, I'm actually capable of figuring out how busy is the place, how many people are there, and actually to monitor their motion, and this could help in many situations. Another type is smart field or smart agriculture. And the idea here is that in situations where you are constrained by the cost of fertilizers, constrained by the amount of water that you have, then it's extremely important to actually water the plant when the plant needs water, or give it fertilizer when it needs fertilization. So this technique, and we are doing that with al-Marai. Basically what we have is that we have sensors, 3 types of sensors. We have drones flying over the full farm, and it's actually measuring different types of, taking images and giving us information about the plants, and more information about the soil by having actually fixed sensors in the ground. In addition to, we actually take satellite images, and all of this 3 information, you could have a real-time database that actually gives you information about the plants, and it helps you decide when to water and when to actually put the nutrients inside the farm. Some of the far advanced, less researchy is these type of startups that came from KAUST, and it's interesting. This project, which analyzes the breath for looking for ammonia, and the idea here is ammonia is a good indication that you have some kidney diseases, early on kidney diseases. Now, this whole project actually started in the combustion center. Has nothing to do with the human beings. In the combustion center, they are monitoring the combustion to figure out the quality of the burning of gas for the car. So they need to figure out the particles that there, is it full combustion or not. So part of this is that they actually managed to put sensors, and these are infrared sensors, to actually analyze the gases that are in the mixture that's coming out. So what you have here is that they actually use the same concept to look for ammonia that has a distinct signature at certain frequencies, and you can just blow in this device and it gives you information about the level of ammonia, and it's extremely important. This one is actually a box that Professor Alwini is doing, and the idea here is that they have their lots of algorithms in order to communicate high speed, high throughput in a very highly efficient way. So we do not use, this is custom made algorithms rather than using the Wi-Fi and the 3G, because these are more generic. Once you are generic, it becomes more expensive power wise, but once you customize things to do the functions that you're interested in, you can actually get extremely long period of operation on batteries. And every year we hold a big event where we have everyone working on the project. We are talking about 17, 18 KAUST faculty, 5 external faculty, and then each one of us has either a student or a postdoc. So it's a big group of people who are actually working together in this. So this year is going to be around May 8 at KAUST. Okay. So this covers one part, which is the different types of sensors project that happens at KAUST. Dr. Abed asked me to give you a brief idea about other activities that's going on in electrical engineering and computer engineering at KAUST. Does it make sense? So with that, so different projects, different okay, I think it's here. Okay, so we'll skip the first few slides because they're just talking about what is KAUST, where is KAUST. This is, I'm hoping that these are all familiar, so we'll just go directly to some information. So quick facts about KAUST right now. We are about 1,100 students right now, about 150 faculty. We have about 700 research staff, and the total size of the community right now about 7,200 people. So that's the whole KAUST community, with a bunch of, like, I think right now this number became 1,800 kids in the community. So more kids than students in the university. So the current distribution, and this is in 2 years. So right now I can give you the updated. This is about PhD 80%, master's 17%, male female is approximately the same ratio. But for these numbers, the number of Saudi students right now total is about 40%. Middle East dropped to 10%. Africa is the same. China is the same. Asia, this is 15%. This is 10%, and this increased about 12%. So more or less, this is the distribution of the students by gender, by study track, and by country of origin or area of origin. So this is where we are right now at KAUST. The school is divided into 3 main groups or divisions, which is like colleges. So computer, electrical and computer sciences, physical science and engineering, and biological engineering. This is the, so some asked me about admission to KAUST. So this is just to give you an idea, and this is also 2 years old. Basically, in electrical engineering, we get about 800 students. We admit about 40. So this is about 5% admission rate. So this is applications and this is admission. However, to go from these numbers, we are and these are the different departments that the university have. You'll see that they submit their application. If the application is complete, if not, then some drop. Then we have some filters, people who are GPAs are low and schools that we think are not as good. Then we go over faculty that look into the paper, and then we look into academic interview. Each student gets examined by 1 or 2 professors for his background, and then we do a CAUST interview with the admission office, and then they get admitted, and if they are accepted the offer or not. So this is how the cycle. So this takes us 5 months. Every year we spend from January all the way till May working on cutting this. About right now we're about 6,000 applications. 6,000, we admit about 200 applications. And one of the things that we're happy about, at least, I mean, that's what we feel, is the same process goes for everyone. Whether you're a Saudi student, non-Saudi student, everyone goes through the same process. The only difference is some of the Saudi students, we might accept the application slightly late because they don't need visas. But international students, since they need visas, we need to make sure everything is done by April 1st. So we're done right now with all international students. Saudi students we can actually keep interviewing. We don't have a problem with that. And this is just to give you an idea that truly every year, this is 2017, 2018, so it's last year. Where are the students coming from? So it's truly international environment. Students are coming from everywhere, working together, and this is actually environment I think is very healthy for them to explore different ideas. In fact, at some point of time, there were discussions like, because we get lots of Chinese students, that also we should have diversity in schools. Like, don't get them all from Tsinghua, which is their top #1. No, diversify also the school as well. Anyway, so what are the facilities we have at KAUST? So we have, of course, the marine centers. They have their own boats. They have a marine center which actually takes care of collecting coral reefs, collecting fish. We have our own aquarium, and they are monitoring the status of the coral reefs, the population of fish. They are sequencing new coral reef, new plants. Why you need to sequence these? Because you can find new materials, and this could have big impact in the pharmaceutical companies. So there are actually 2 companies that are working on commercializing some of the new materials that they discover that are good for certain type of drugs. Visualization, a very nice facility. The more and more data you have, it's very hard to process it. So it's actually, and also to visualize it so people can make decisions. So we have a very nice facility. 2 facilities in particular are good. Of course, the huge big screens and all that stuff, we can zoom on something, but we have a 3D facilities, we call it the cave. It's a room like this, but all 4 walls and the ceiling and the ground are screens that are shining light. So basically, you can actually walk inside with a special eyeglasses. You're actually walking inside the 3D structure. And this actually turns out to be a very good way of visualizing things. People can understand things much, much simpler when they can see it, not just see a projection of it on the screen or actually talk to abstract about it. Biosciences and bioengineering, we have lots of lab facilities that actually analyze the samples. You can actually, if you're interested, we do many of these analyses. Supercomputer, we have 2, Shaheen 1 and Shaheen 2. Shaheen 1 was a Blue Gene machine. Shaheen 2 just came last year. It's a Cray machine. Both of them are in the top. Cray now is in the top 5 supercomputer in the world. So this allows you to do a huge computational problems, the type where it requires 60,000 processors running all in parallel to solve a differential equation and stuff like that. Nano fabrication and thin film facility. If you are interested in going to a clean room and building your own transistors, building own nano structures, building MEMS devices, all of this can be done nicely at KAUST. Different types of materials. We just had a material to do a machine in order to actually build optoelectronic devices. So these are just generic for transistors, but then for optoelectronics you need another class of materials, 3/5 that they call them, and we hired 2 professors that are actually that, and they built actually this facility right now. Now this is just basic workshops, but some of the nice facilities that is NMR. So nuclear magnetic resonance is one thing. If you are interested, if you have a sample and you want to analyze it, so this is one of the facilities. It looks like MRI. Basically, it's magnetic resonance to figure out what's inside, and this is the biggest NMR facility in the world. Full stop. Has one machine that is, and the higher the frequency you operate at, the better. there is one machine that exists, only 2 copies of it in the world. One here and one in Holland, which is the company that actually builds these type of machines. So that types of machines actually gives you a lot of good head up when you are doing research in analyzing materials and getting into layers that you are looking at. This is just more pictures from our labs, so there's not much to say really. This is a picture of the clean room. Let's see. Visualization. So this is the different visualization things. We have partnership with many universities worldwide, companies of course, and with that let's go into what we do. So right now at KAUST we give master's degree for Saudi students only. We do not allow an international student to come just to do masters. Why? There's no point. If students, international students, then or Saudi students want to do masters with the thesis options, which we call it MS/PhD, then that's an option. And then of course the PhD degree. Now we started a few years back a very tiny internship program that morphed now into a huge internship program. At any point of time right now at KAUST, there is about 100 students that are doing internship. We're talking about the university has 1,000 students. 10% of our students now are internship students from Saudi universities and from international universities. And the program has multiple versions. Some of them come in the summer. Some of them do their graduation project. So this would actually work nicely with King Abdulaziz because the students are here so they can go back and forth. And I know Atif and Slim are doing some stuff, but this program has been done beautifully with Ifat University. They actually get us involved early on in the students, their capstone project, their graduation project. They use our facilities, the students, we give them access, they go back and forth every day, and in the between semesters they can actually come and stay the whole period on campus. So it's actually working nicely. But it's not, so that's one. But we have an internship where the students can spend 3 to 6 months if they can. Like some KFUPM students, sometimes they can take a semester off and they can actually come and stay at KAUST. So we have that program. So we do an interview in order to be fair. So all these students apply and they get interviewed by the faculty at KAUST, and if we feel that they are actually at the right level, because too young is too young. So we need to make sure that the level is correct, and then we match them with the faculty at KAUST and they come to do that. So the lead on this project is Professor Salama Nafouri, who's actually, I was at KFUPM and he is actually very passionate about that, and it's a big program. So every year, at least in my lab, I have about 5 Saudi students and maybe 2 international students. We feel this is actually good. And we use the international students as visitors before giving them an offer. Get them to a lab, see if the chemistry is right. If they are good, then we can give them an offer, other than blindly giving offers to some students that we are not sure about. These are the degrees that we cover at KAUST, and I'm going to focus on electrical engineering, computer science, and applied math. And last year, we just started a new degree, which is the statistics department. But it's a full-fledged degree. Already the number of faculty in statistics is more than the number of faculty in applied math, because they moved out from applied math and they are doing statistics. One of the things that they are doing is extreme statistics. Basically, you are collecting data from sensors, how to make information out of that. Okay, so our dean is Mu'taz, who is actually the head of IBM Research Labs. And these are the areas that we focus on, more or less, roughly. I mean, things could change, but roughly. So in electrical engineering, we have a big group of us doing sensors, magnetic sensors, optoelectronic sensors, I mean, also application-oriented, biomedical, gas, all type of sensors. So we have lots of work on that. Nanotechnology, how to actually build transistors, how to build nano devices, how to build MEMS. So these are there. Photonics is becoming a big deal. We have 4 faculty working on photonics, both on the computational side and both onto the device side. Computer network and signal processing and robotics and control is the biggest thing that we are going to be going for right now at KAUST, is robotics and control. So right now we have 2 official professors, 1 half and half, but then next year we want to hire 2 more. So this is a big deal for us. Modeling and simulation is actually stochastic analysis, partial differential equations. I mean, these are the type of things that applied maths are interested in. And of course, computer science is not your typical computer science. We are heavily more into high performance computing and data analytics. We feel that other areas that are more traditional computer science, I mean, we cannot at KAUST, the concept that to have everyone living on campus forces us that our size is going to be small. And to do only graduate research gives us the luxury that we don't have to teach everything. We only focus on certain things. So we figured out that these are the areas that we are actually going to be focused on. Cybersecurity has a star because it's an area that we failed miserably to fill it for the last 10 years. Extremely important area. We cannot find the right caliber of people that would be hiring in KAUST. So it tells you how tough is the market. It doesn't matter how much money you offer them, doesn't matter how facilities you offer them. It's an area that is very tough to get into. This is more information about the department. So electrical engineering, we have 17 professors, computer science 10, and applied math probably now is about 10 and 7 between applied math and statistics. And as you can see, we have good size of research staff. We have 42 research scientists, which could be research engineers or research scientists, and 56 postdocs. So that's the program that we have right now in our division. This is where the students in our division are coming from. So you can see that we are heavily into MENA, Middle East and North Africa, and Saudi Arabia. This is the biggest concentration of the students, and with Asia, of course, Chinese students are the biggest in our division. This is the distribution, just in case you are interested in knowing the distributions in our programs. Okay, I want to go into the area. This is more statistic about where our students, after finishing, where they end up going. That some of them finished masters and going for PhD in these places, and some of them want to go as postdocs. Okay, so but I want to go into the slides where we have. This is some of the results. We are in luxury because we don't teach too many undergraduate courses, so we have more focus on research, and of course all our students are masters and PhD, so that means our productivity for publication wise is a little bit higher than the typical average considering the number of faculty that you would have. So now looking into electrical engineering and what areas do we have and what type of projects what we have. So we are a department, the biggest department from the point of view of students. So we have 120 students. This is the biggest department in the whole university. We are divided more or less into two groups. The people who build, call them electrophysics group and the systems group. So here are people who are doing photonics, electromagnetic circuits, and solid state devices, and the other group is the communication control signal processing. And these are the typical master courses that some of the students might be taking. We call them core courses that they have to be professional in these things. You cannot advance into a PhD unless you are actually going to pass an exam in these. If you pass it, you don't have to take the courses, but if you pass it, then you are qualified to do a PhD. If you don't, then you have another chance. It's called the qualifier exam. If you don't, then you're out. So these are the areas in both tracks. The department, we don't divide ourselves, like here is the division by areas of research. So we have electromagnetics and photonics. So we have two professors are working on computational electromagnetics and computational photonics. We have two professors that are working on building LEDs, lasers, any electronic devices that has to do with light. And Boone is the head of CAC's Center on Smart Lightning. Then we have Aurelian, who's mainly material science professor and adjunct with us. He's working on the physics of these type of devices. And J.R. Hay is an expert on fabrication of high power electronics. Then we have the device and the circuits group. So we are divided into Professor Talar works on microwave circuits, Hussein works on digital circuits, Muhammad Hussein is the guru of fabrication. He's the one who built this membrane that you put on the fish. Jürgen Kossel is magnetic sensors in all sorts of applications. Kazahiro is our latest professor that we hired. He is into gallium nitride type light emitting diodes. Myself, I work on circuit design, analog circuits, digital circuits, mixed signal, application oriented, and Atif works on antenna design. But his unique feature right now is printed electronics. So he prints, rather than use a clean room facility, he actually prints his devices. So inkjet printing, additive manufacturing, these type of things. So it's a very hot. In the communications and networking, it's a big group. Professor Tariq Nafouri, who actually was with me at Stanford, but then he was at KFUPM. So he works on DSP, OFDM type applications. Professor Salama Al-Waini, he's our associate dean. He works on quality of service, works on 3G. However, he's now moving completely into two big applications. free space communications, basically optical communication in free space, not wireless, and underwater communication, which is a big hot research area right now. And the way you do underwater communication, traditionally it's using acoustics, very slow data rates. So they are actually doing all different types of ways of actually communicating underwater right now. Bassem Shahada is a computer engineering by training, and he works in the borderline between CS and electrical engineering in actually networking problems. So queuing theory, networking, IoT, and Ahmed Sultan is our guru in DSP like no other. Control systems, we have two professors. We have Mariam, who is actually traditional control, and she works on many aspects of control. She has also, she's a mathematician by nature, so she does a lot of work on fractional differential equations, but she works on solar plants. So how to actually move the solar so that it actually tracks the light. She works with the desalination center on actually how to increase or decrease the flow of water in the plant. So lots of control there. Jeff is a multi-agent type and game theory originally. He originally started as a control, morphed into multi-agent, moved into game theory, and now he's morphed into robotics. He's a very good guy. Then we have a big interest in computer vision as a sort of a sensor. Lots of videos, how to collect information, and we are not trying to identify people or object in a video. That's what people do. We are trying to identify a behavior. So I'm not interested in this is a ball, this is a guy, this is a girl, this is a tree. No, I'm interested in someone telling me that these people are running, these people are hiding, these people are playing. So this type of behavior analysis is actually extremely interesting for us. And then Wolfgang is the center director for the whole visual computing center. He works on different types of cameras, and Ganesh works on image processing. Okay? Our webpage has all of us has very active web pages. We try to keep at least our publications already up there, but we also have research and teams and all the stuff. So you can get all the information you are interested in. These are some slides from some of the professors. Subul, as I said, he heads CAC's Center on Solid State Lightning, and the idea here is 40%, I would say no, 30% of the lightning worldwide is being spent on light. Energy is being spent on light. So really moving from the traditional bulbs into the fluorescence, now people are talking about LED. He's taking it to a next level, which is lasers. So these are the type of things that he's working on. He works on LEDs, and of course LEDs are limited in their colors. So how to make an LED light emitting different colors. How to make laser-based smart lighting system. Basically, he actually creates light with laser, and it's very hard to actually do white laser. So this is actually a very tough problem to work on. Hakam Bachi is computational electromagnetics. Basically, give him any structure and the currents and voltages, and he can give you the whole field and charges everywhere. But we are not talking about a simple, I have a wire and another wire beside it. We are talking the cockpit of the Boeing. In his PhD, he was responsible of actually one of the Boeing to actually figure out the whole electromagnetic field inside that thing, because you do not want any interference. This affect your navigation. And he keeps working on multiple projects. And like one of the things that he's working on right now is oil extraction. Interestingly enough, it's actually it's an electromagnetic problem, because you don't know what's under the ground. It's a mix of many things, and you are trying to actually map the ground. So the way they do it, you actually send a signal and you get a reflected signal and trying to figure it out. So how to do that? So he uses a lot through the supercomputer of KAUST. Muhammad Hussein, as I said, he is expert in integration. So he builds all flexible, stretchable, transparent type of electronics. So non-traditional type of electronics type devices. Jürgen Kossel, he's working on magnetic sensors. He uses them for the rusty pipes. He uses them in biomedical applications. He uses them in energy harvesting, anything to do with magnetics. And he is perfecting doing what we call magnetic nanowires. So he makes very thin wires and of magnets. And one of the things that got all over the news a couple of years ago, and has now many companies are actually licensing this, is he is making something like your hand hairs, and these are magnetic. And you can actually, so they are very thin, they can motion wind, water can actually move them around, and you can actually detect this motion and actually directions and all that stuff. Tariq, he works on heterogeneous networks. Basically, you have multiple networks, each one is running on a different protocol. How you actually communicate with each other to actually achieve the best transmission rates and the least noise effects, interference. I told you about Slim Alwini. He's working mostly now on free optical communication and also at the same time on underwater communication. Basically, quality of service, how to do new modulation schemes, how to improve the signal to noise ratio and the bit error rates. Bernard Ghanem, he is one of our youngest and we call him the big guns. He got the Google Award, Facebook Award, all the awards you could think of, all those companies, he's getting them. And he works on the hot area, which is deep learning, machine learning. So he is actually not only takes videos and use machine learning to identify patterns and information in them, he actually develops also new machine learning and artificial intelligence type algorithms. So it's actually a very hot research area, very hard mathematically. He's a very solid mathematically, he works a lot on optimization, but it requires also many things in computer science, programming, math, many things. So it's very hard to work with him. But one of the most active professors we have puts his cameras on drones and they actually survey many things and do real-time stuff. Ganesh, traditional image processing, where he actually looks into videos and can figure out occlusions of object covers another object, where people are, what they are doing, these type of things. Mariam, as I said, is control systems. So they works a lot with the desalination, works a lot on modeling of biological samples and fractional differential equations, fractional differential ODEs, PDEs. She's actually an expert in that. Her background is math/electrical engineering, and these are the type of systems she works on. Last but not least is Jeff, and he is a robotics guy right now, or at this stage, where he actually works with what they call swarms. Basically, they launch 10 robots in the air, basically copters, and they actually make decisions together and move together, and so it's a very interesting type problem because you could actually do that. Now this group, he just joined us 3.5 years ago, Jeff. They won the third award in the big robotics award competitions that happened in the Emirates, that happens every couple of years. So this is actually a big deal because the first group of students that actually built this, and interesting enough, all the group students were 2 from King Fahd University and 1 from King Abdulaziz. So all 3 students are local students who actually started this. Myself, I work on new type of electronics, new type of devices, where we can actually try to move from the way that our computers were built into the way our brains were built. How to actually build computers that resembles the brain rather than that resembles a very sophisticated calculator machine. So this is the type, and the main driven by the fact that we are reaching a limit where all the advantages we are getting by making transistors smaller are no longer going to be there because we are going to hit a wall at some point. Okay. And this is another project that I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it, which is implantable sensors. We actually do sensors that implanted inside your eye to monitor your pressure inside the eye. And the idea here is that this will monitor glaucoma patients so that they actually, all the time, we can actually check what's going on with them. And this is a very tough problem because you have to implant something. It has to be tiny, 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. It has to have all the electronics and everything, and figure a way to harvest energy to make it run. So we had, and so this type of thing, you cannot have one student working on it. It's a team of all of us are working on it in order to actually build something that would work at the end to solve this problem. And then to test it, we tested it actually on cow eyes, but I don't like to show it in electrical engineering media because it's disgusting to see. Now, and this is of course at KAUST. If you have any question, just shoot, or anything that you want to know more about our research, our department, the initiative that we have, I'll be gladly tell you more about it. Yes?
Just want to ask you, maybe you can use the microphone so that everything is recorded as well.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It was a really interesting talk.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask you about the H2s sensor.
Yes.
What kind of sensor is it? Is it IR?
So, okay, so no. So the H2s sensor, there are 2 groups on campus doing H2s sensing. One group in the combustion center, they are using infrared. So basically lasers, and they actually look into the signatures. The bad thing about it is big this size and it's heavy, so it's not portable. And also, once you start having water or humidity, it doesn't work. So there is another group, which is my group that I'm working with, me and the people in the chemistry department. Basically, they are building membranes, porous membranes, that actually they can tune the sizes of the hole so that they can tune to H2s. And when now these membranes, when they absorb H2s, the membrane properties change. So we actually test the electrical properties of the membrane before and after. In this case, we did two types of membranes, one which is conductive and one which is capacitive, and we actually can show that we can actually detect the small changes in that membrane, and then we build all the electronics. So we build electrodes, these electrodes, coat them with the membrane that is specific to this gas. Gas comes in, absorb, it changes the property of material. The electrodes, if you pass electric field, then the capacitance will change. Then you actually detect that amount of change and correlate it with how much gases are there in the environment. And then electronics to read the capacitance change and all that stuff.
What type of material do you
Metal organic frameworks that we are using right now. Yes. So we have some expert people. The main thing that we use metal organic frameworks is that working on room temperature is good. Now we used it as capacitive, we use it as FET transistors, field effect transistors, and we have an unsuccessful venture where we actually tried it with conductive, but we used it also as a QCM, which is a quartz. Basically, it is an oscillator that vibrates when you give it voltage. So if you coat it with the membrane and the membrane attracts the gas, the weight changes, so the vibration changes. So if you can detect the small change in the vibration, then you can detect the gas. All of them are going on. So it's a very nice research area that I wasn't working. All my work was on biosensors, but it's the same concept. So now I'm in gas and oil because this is what Aramco loves, and which means that I can get more funding from them and more job opportunities for my students. So we need to adapt to things to make things work. Cool. Questions?
Ask a question. Just I was asking about the continuous glucose monitoring.
Yes.
Is it invasive or non-invasive? Because
okay, so
it's implantable you mentioned. And
yes. Okay. The glucose monitoring. This is not ours. This is the one that's in the market.
Yeah.
It's invasive, but it's invasive. Basically, what happens here? There are two tiny electrodes that they put them under your skin.
So they are
implanted. There is what they call adipose layer. This layer is actually has the fat in your body, so they can actually monitoring this layer gives it. So it actually it always implanted all the time, but then you don't have to have blood coming out all the time. So it's actually some people like it, and of course this big thing you can remove it. So you keep only the electrodes if you are swimming or something like that, and then if you put it there.
What about the underwater communication? They're using again.
They are using light, which is interesting to use light underwater because there is problems about diffraction, problems about actually. I mean, my naive scenario is you are shining light from one place to another place to communicate. What if a fish comes in between? I mean, it's going to block the light.
And also the
level of the water. Actually, yes, because, yes. So they have to deal with all.
It's like a lens, actually.
Yes, yes, exactly. So that's
a mirror.
Yeah. So what's happening is, so the fish, they told me it doesn't matter because the fish is going to move. It's not going to be standing in front of our laser. So this is not a problem. But exactly as you said, the water is actually acts as a lens, and they have to model the water. So part of the project is actually modeling water at different depths, at different salinity. How is this water, so that you develop your algorithm and correction codes in order to account for that. And they now turns out that this is a very, very hot research area right now, and there is a web page, I'm told, that records the highest data rate and the highest distance worldwide from papers demonstrations, like real demonstration. Now the kids at KAUST, the students, not kids, students got hooked on this. So there are 3 groups worldwide that are the leading groups competing, and they keep demonstrating things, and it gets updated, and it's becoming now a big thing, like between China and Saudi Arabia, which country has the highest. Like this 1 month is those guys, and this 1 month, and it's moving very fast. So it's actually a very exciting.
You're talking about what rates and what distance, because they are.
So the rates, I think, we need to ask Slim, but I know is they reached mega. Which is, we're talking about acoustic, which is in the low kilos. This is high megas, it's like maybe 10 mega. And No, I would say actually, no, much higher than that. I need to get the numbers. But the distance, I know that they reached up to kilometer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So huge. Yeah. So this is like, and it's being tested in the Red Sea. So it's actually on real scenarios. So, so this is actually an interesting new thing. This all started by Aramco. Aramco has a problem is that they have those oil platform inside the Red Sea. And the problem is if you have a diver going down and you actually want to take images and cameras, you cannot depend on this low rate communication. So this idea of you needed a high data rate communication under the water. And that's how the whole project started. Now they are using it for all sorts of things, but this was the idea that initiated from them.
Yeah, but there is still other problems like line of sight with
yes. So it's not an easy problem, but it's a different, exciting problem.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, would like to thank you very much for this very interesting talk, and I'm very happy really to see the whole view of what has been done. So it's really very educational for all of us.
Yes.
Thank you
very
much again.
Thank you so much. And as I said, if at any point of time any one of you is interested in visiting cows, then by all means send us an email. We can actually arrange a visit. If you would love to give talks, now one of the things that I also want to stress on your students, we are always looking for students because good students are very hard to get. So the more students you can recommend to us, the more happy that we will be. That's one thing. We would love also to be co-advising on students. We have lots of opportunities with many professors doing that, co-advising of students. If there is sometimes in the end of the year, there is like capstone project evaluation, we would love to come and be participating in this. So we are doing many of these events. There's an internship program for students, so if you can tell your students about it, that would be very good help. Every year we have students from all over the kingdom. This year is like actually for the first time we have Hayel, Jizan, Al-Baha, students coming in the summer to do an internship, and this is actually extremely nice, but the people in Jeddah are much easier to get, and they will be more happy because they can go home and all that stuff, so we'd love to have them as well as much as we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.